That's the first time I experienced something called like an explosive growth, which we are seeing in these other companies right now, where we went from 3 million all the way to 150 million ARR in 2 years and 3 months.
Wow.
Thanks to COVID, we were able to put together a great team. And I wrote some of the early playbooks and how do we sell, etc., for the SMB and mid-market segment. Most importantly, I have built some internal tooling with our product growth teams on how do we empower sellers to do more upsell and cross-sell in terms of the account management. And that was really my first internal tool building exercise. And I always felt like this needs to exist. It did not exist at that time.
Okay. Welcome to the show. Super happy to have you on here. Looking forward to our talk. You have an interesting background.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Yeah, of course. You and I spoke a couple weeks ago and we had a very brief conversation, enough to kind of whet my appetite of curiosity.
For sure.
Let's dive into, so you were with Rippling.
Yeah.
As we all know, Rippling just went through crazy hyper growth, and you were there for that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to dig into some lessons learned and some things there. But before we do that, I'd love to learn more about your background and your path because it's a little bit different than the typical founder.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. My story starts with my parents. My father never went to high school. My mother got married when she was in high school, like she was 16. And I was born when she was 17. So that's how far. And they're both from an agriculture background, like in the sense that they both are coming from a farmer background. And their only goal is to get their kids educated. And that's deeply built into my ethos. I do play a lot of sports and I have some natural gift, is what my coaches used to say. Because for example, I learned tennis just by watching tennis for 10 years, either in a neighbor's house or even go to an electronic store and stand outside and just keep watching. I come from a small city in India where Google is now establishing the data center, by the way, which is
That's
why now
crazy.
it's called Vizag. It has the longest coastal line in India, and Google's got a data center now. So now I can brag about where I actually come from, the real city, instead of saying some other closest big city as my city.
Yeah.
Yeah, born and raised there till 15, moved out for education, went to a school called National Institute of Technology, NIT, then later, partly like for a week, went to IIT Bombay because of whatever. And I got, in India, we have all India ranks, unlike the SATs. Everything is a competitive exam, so you need to crack that exam, you need to grind, and you need to study very hard. I got 115, and so that was good. And then I went on to I did bachelor's in chemical engineering. But yeah, because I have some inclination towards physics, I struggled hard to learn physics when I was a kid, but I also fell in love with it. I just feel that we have some form of physics ingrained in our brains. When I was a kid, someone threw a ball. I exactly know with what velocity, momentum the ball is in general, like moving towards me or away from me. And then I'm running and catching it, or even when I was playing tennis, with what pace I need to hit it. It's all like an intuitive calculation. So physics was always driving me. So initially wanted to be a mechanical engineer, building some F1 cars. I also built a small all-terrain vehicle, being part of a team in my undergrad, building an all-terrain vehicle and then doing racing participation, but then got into chemical engineering. A lot of people think it's chemistry, but a lot of it is
Right.
physics. I fell in love with material science, like solid state physics and material science, and went to the UK. That's my first time ever going out of India. There, I worked in a lab for 2.5 months. The professor allowed me. He offered PhD to where I was working on building organic photovoltaic cells, like trying different materials, silicon, germanium cells, and different. The idea is to take solar energy, convert that into electrical energy by coming up with a breakthrough cell combination. We hit a wall in the sense that mentally, that's the first time I went out of India away. I was away from families from the age 15, but then it's just a completely novel country, no friends, nothing.
Right.
Looked very different than me. It's all a new experience. I was excited and embracing it. In fact, I went and played county cricket there. The UK is all about cricket. United States with baseball, so I even being a part of the team, people started loving me, etc. But then I also felt the lab environment is lonely. You're by your own, and I did
Hmm.
not enjoy it that well. Moved to the States, Went to B school, University of Chicago, Booth School of Business. They gave me early admission, which was phenomenal. They just started a new program where they were getting 24-year-old people into the program. They had this entrepreneurship cell called Polsky Cell, if I remember the name rightly. One day, Brian Johnson gave a talk, and then the Grubhub founder also gave a talk. Sitting in that conversation with the Grubhub co-founder, this is back in 2012, 2013, 2014, that time frame. We don't have any of the
Right.
smartest
Yeah.
phones here
Yeah.
where you tap on a DoorDash and the order gets delivered. You need to call them. So he shared for 45 minutes to 60 minutes all the war stories, which was extremely inspiring. And I said, this is what I want to do. Be in the weeds of it, be in the moments of crisis, and then keep solving problems for a lot more users and people around me that creates an impact. And that drove me towards entrepreneurship, combining my love for physics. My first company was to teach concepts of physics via game. It's a very much
Mm.
Jungle Book inspired game that I designed up to 40 levels, built it for 9 months, a couple of us, a friend of mine from undergrad, and we couldn't monetize. The moment people hear the word games, I think there's a feeling that it's a waste of time or you're just having fun, but not, you'll not be studying. But then games has so much mechanics of how to. I'm not sure. Have you played Age of Empires or
I
board
haven't.
games?
I have played some board games.
Yeah, there's some games where you're just like killing for fun and nothing else, and that
Right.
doesn't do
Yeah.
much for your brain development. But there's
No.
some games which have high amount of strategy. Like a lot of my friends used to play Warcraft and Dota, and for me it was a little intimidating. It has so much of, I used to play a lot of Catan like board games, and I said like that helped me develop a camaraderie with my friends, a strategy,
Right.
negotiating on how to get certain resources. So how about take those mechanics, put them for learning for the right positive reason, but we couldn't monetize, and I merged my company and then moved and started working with two of my friends from undergrad again. They were building interesting networking platform, which is for careers and mentorship for job opportunities, very specific to each university. I went and joined them because it felt very impactful. For me, again, the impact as a word you might hear a lot.
Yeah.
That keeps driving me. I'm very much towards the problems that I personally faced. And that means there are a million other people like me who would be facing, and what is the impact there. So I went and joined them. We three became a founding team, and that company is called Alma Base. We ended up building a fundraising platform for schools, universities, and nonprofits where they can raise funds from their alumni, engage them meaningfully for career opportunities, for most importantly, fundraising for any scholarships, etc., so that they can make education affordable in some private institutions in the United States.
Great. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
started that. Then did you sell that? Did you guys sell that?
No, it's still running. My
Still
co-founder
running.
still runs it. It's a
Awesome.
very healthy business, growing at more than 50%,
Yeah.
growing year on year. 70-member team. My co-founder lives in Atlanta. I ran that for 7 years. And that's where I became an accidental GTM person because after two
Mm.
years of building the product, we realized that if we need to feed ourselves or if we want some investor to invest in us, we need to sell.
You're right.
And my other friends from computer science background, they were better coders than me. So I chose then, okay, I need to go and face the customers and then learn what is this go to market, what is sales, what is positioning, what is marketing,
Yeah.
whatnot. And I moved to Boston in 2016. Everyone told me that Boston is a hub of 100 universities. You should just go live there, get your first million there. And they're right. I moved to Boston, spent there for 6 months, learned how to sell. I used to just walk into offices. Like I onboarded Harvard, we got Yale as our customer, we got UPenn as our customer, and then some, notable investors in the Valley recognized us. And I moved to Silicon Valley, where we got funded by 500 startups.
That's what a great piece of advice. Whoever gave you that,
Yeah,
hey, go here where all these universities are and cut your
yep,
teeth. This is
yep,
how you're going to figure it out. Yeah.
that's it.
It's so interesting to me. You talk to different startups and they go one of two ways. One is I'm going to build this product because I think it's cool. And then I'm going to go try to find customers, right?
Yeah,
Like, okay, I built it. I spent the money. I spent the time. Now I'm going to go try to find some people to sell it to.
yeah,
And then the other concept is, hey, I have this idea. Let me see if I can sell it to
yeah,
some people first.
yeah,
And probably the idea is going to evolve into 50 people. And
yeah,
I think quite a few more. But It's fascinating to me. Each one results in oftentimes the founder going out
Yeah,
and getting in front of customers, right? Like
yeah,
if you could distill it down, it's if you want to shortcut it,
yeah,
just go do that step.
yeah,
Go get in front of potential customers and you will figure out the problems to solve and what you need to build.
yeah. 100%. I think first time when we did Alma base for the first 2 years, again, it's a problem that we faced during our
Yep.
undergrad. So it was a very personal problem of what my two other co-founders faced. And so we related to it. So hence we went and started building it. Then someone said, go to Boston, understand the university culture in the United States. That's novel for us. The university culture in UK is very different than the one in India, than the one in Australia, and
Right.
the one in the United States. We had slight product market fit, but I wouldn't say there is a lot of product market fit. So
Yeah.
we need to go immerse ourselves in there to understand them.
Yeah. Smart.
Yeah.
And then you ended up at Rippling.
Yeah, that's a cool story too. So pandemic happened and I moved out from Silicon Valley. I don't have family in the States. So I went back to India. My sister's a doctor. I just felt a little bit safer there. And we none of us knew what this whole pandemic is going to, what are its implications, right?
Right.
And the borders and the flights, everything closed.
Closed. Yeah.
My visa expired,
Oh,
and when the American consulate opened and I got the visa to go get stamped, they said 2 years wait time. It felt like a
wow.
punch in my gut saying that someone is taking away my opportunity. It's not someone as a human, but it's just like some form of a
The
circumstance,
policy.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And great talent and great opportunities are everywhere. How do we connect? I started going into that rabbit hole for 4 months, and I found this company called remote.com. The
Oh,
founders are
yeah.
from GitLab. He built this large scale remote team at GitLab. GitLab and Zapier were one of the very well known remote teams. He saw that, and I wrote to him and cold outreach, cold email completely. I did not even know that they're that big. They just raised seed at that point. I reached out to them, did an interview in parallel. Like I reached out to other companies in that space, like Deal, Papaya Global, all of them. But remote had this value which says kindness. And that really pulled me. And I said, okay, let me just go and work with these people. So I was their sixth or seventh GTM when they were 2 to 3 million, like a little bit of a clunky HubSpot
Yeah.
setup,
Yeah.
and Chorus as the recorder, and everything happening on Slack and Notion. It's 2021 January is what I'm explaining. And I said, I should definitely go join this team. That's the first time I experienced something called explosive growth, which we are seeing in these other companies right now, where we went from 3 million all the way to 150 million ARR in 2 years and 3 months.
Wow.
Thanks to COVID, we were able to put together a great team. And I wrote some of the early playbooks and how do we sell, etc., for the SMB and mid-market segment. Most importantly, I have built some internal tooling with a product growth teams on how do we empower sellers to do more upsell and cross-sell in terms of the account management, like getting all the data from a spreadsheet, and then marking each of the cells in the spreadsheet with different color codes and making
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
looking little cool so that the reps will use it. And that was my first internal tool building exercise. And I always felt like this needs to exist. It did not exist at that time. And then I moved to New York. A friend of mine talked me into joining Rippling, and they were exactly building, or they were competing with remote with a new product launch. Rippling has close to 30 products, and there's three products called Global, which competes with remote. So they said, hey, you seem to have a lot of depth in the market. Can you
Yeah.
come and help us? So I joined them. That product line is single digit revenue or so. And then by the time I left Rippling, just that product line crossed 100 million ARR. Rippling in general is, I think, at close to $1 billion ARR run rate,
Crazy.
right? Like, so it's insane. It's growing insanely fast. And there again, like I did some experiments with data and some internal tooling on the growth side. These two stints, like that rapid growth, gave me a viewpoint that code is your leverage in a way that if you think everything from code as a way, or how do I use computers and the machines as a way to give me alpha and leverage, because go to market is all about finding your 2%, 1%, 5% edge than your next competitor when it's a crowded market. Like both Rippling and Remote are in extremely crowded markets. People say it's a crowded market. The way I listen to it is they just don't understand the nuances of the market because Rippling is like a 700th HRIS system on G2 Crowd. If you just look at
Yeah.
HRIS, there are probably 800 vendors that are just listed on G2 Crowd. But if you remove G2 Crowd, just in the United States, there could be like 2,000 payroll providers or 3,000 payroll providers. It's an
Big.
insane amount. It's very big.
Yeah.
Like this, their businesses in Colorado, what they do is they just only handle Colorado payroll for those companies who have establishments in the UK. So they just handle Colorado state payroll and UK payroll. And even those businesses are doing like 10, 15 million ARR. So it's that
Yeah.
diverse, widespread business. And so we started thinking everything from code as a first principle point of view, and then see how do we use machines and code as a way to get an edge. Now everyone's calling this GTM engineering.
Yeah.
So we used to call
Yeah.
growth engineering.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up because obviously GTM engineering is a fairly new term. And you have a scientific background, which is very similar to an engineering background, like
Yeah.
how you approach problems, how you think about problems, very
Yep.
logical and very process
Yeah.
driven. I find it fascinating that there's a lot of this call for this GTM engineer, and a lot of
Yeah.
them actually have an engineering background, right? But you're right, it's use the code to solve problems. I also find interesting that you were doing this, with remote pre AI. That's without any
Pre-AI.
AI
Yep.
tools, right? And
Yep. No AI. Yep.
think about that project now, how much easier and quicker
Yeah.
and more sophisticated it could be,
Yep.
and probably just yourself working on it.
Yeah. I think folks at Clay understood this problem very well. What I was trying to build back in the day in that spreadsheet interface, I think they just like the many people who also have the smart ideas and Clay got it. That's where
Yeah.
you see that explosive growth in general. But the insight really is not a lot of companies can have these growth engineers and GTM engineers. How can you productize what I've done internally, especially as an AI brain for go-to-market teams, which can help sellers sell better, close more deals, remove all the admin work? How do you help sellers just be more human, use their judgment, and then close more deals rather than replacing them? Because I see a world where as we include more AI, we want more human connection and people want to talk to the sellers. As we keep putting more bots in front of others to talk, the sellers will be more important.
Yeah. And it's interesting that shift has started to happen because I think initially the first impression was I'll be interfacing with AI more frequently as a buyer. I'll be using bots, I'll be on phone calls. And I think that was the dream of, oh, look, we can automate all this human touch piece. But really, what's happening is, I think, from the consumer and the buyer perspective, of I expect more human
Mhm.
connection because I'm relying on them, the seller, using these AI tools and being able to be more effective and efficient with their time so they can give me more of the relationship building, the trust building, all those pieces that I get from interacting with the humans. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's a great segue into the product you're building now.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about that. The product's called Nevara. I think on our call, I was like, oh, yet another sales assistant tool,
Yeah.
right? And you
That
had a very great, nope, it's different. And let me tell you why. I'd love to hear if you could share the why.
That's why I don't like the word assistant, but then we'll still end up using it many times because that's the closest abstraction that we have at this point. But here's our investor and mentor, Jake Knapp. He said, Maruti, if there's no differentiation, there's no startup. You don't have the right to exist if you don't have differentiation. If you're doing something else that someone else is doing, you don't have the right to even exist. And Jensen also says from NVIDIA, he says this multiple times in many of his interviews that we don't talk about market share because if you're already talking about market share, that means that exists and someone else is already doing it. Why do you want to go do that to it? For us, the thesis really is if I look at the day in the life of an account executive or go-to-market member, right, like a technical member,
Mhm.
what do they need to do? They need to wake up, they need to look at what's going on in my day. Where are my deals that are getting stalled? Where are my deals that are in flight? And where are the deals that today I have calls with? Now, how do I run all of this in an efficient way? In a way that I'm not juggling and dropping the ball. and at the same time giving value to my customers by being present there, and then exercising my human judgment to the extent that my customers trust me because it's a noisy world. They're not only testing our tool or evaluating our tool as a vendor, they're evaluating 10 other probably in parallel. So what's the best version of myself that I could be there? That's the why. Like, how do we empower that go-to-market member to be completely there for their customer in a way that they can create the differentiated value through their presence and human judgment and their consultative nature? So for that, what do we need to do? There are a couple of things. One is we bring in your complete company knowledge and give it to you as an AI brain for you to always have it accessible to you with a click or on demand or at a tap, right? Or at a chatbot level kind of thing. And then second thing, throughout your process, how can we be your ambient intelligence where you are always spending time with your customers and then creating the differentiated value, taking in your unique point of view while we do the work behind the scenes or help you get your work done faster. That's really the two aspects of how we are different. It starts at a very tactical level. Today, we are working with some of these fast-growing PLG AI native businesses who are unable to hire the right salespeople in the sense that who could talk the AI technical language and the know-how of the product in general, but their growth and the pull for the product is so much that these sellers in these companies end up taking 6 to 12 calls a day and they're exhausted. I have been through that phase
Yeah.
during COVID, everyone wants to hire remotely. And myself and my colleagues, even the sales leaders, managers, everyone were taking like 10 to 12 calls a day at that time with customers, and then you need to close those deals. Of course, we ended up dropping a lot of deals, so the cracks there.
Right. Yeah.
So the human capacity. Now, that's where AI can clearly fit in and act as this ambient intelligence and then just help all of them. And Navara is that ambient intelligence that sits on your desktop, understands the context, almost like how you're understanding the context, and help you as a friend who's putting a hand around your shoulder and then say, hey, you go and go wild with your customers and be present with them. We will help you do the rest of the things.
Yeah. I love that. Maybe it's your AI buddy instead of your sales assistant, your AI sales assistant. But I like that. It's a built-in coach, right? That's also
Yeah,
doing the prep work for you and assisting you along the way and serving as that central knowledge base,
yep,
as opposed to I need to bring the founder. Typically, the founder knows the product best. I need to
yep,
bring the founder onto this call
yeah,
to answer a couple of these questions.
yeah,
Maybe we limit that and empower the seller to be able to do that.
yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, go
Just a
ahead.
thought there, Matt. So the forward deployed engineer is one of the most used term now in
Oh yeah.
Silicon Valley, right?
Yep.
So one way to the forward deployed engineer is a person who understands engineering and salesmanship together
Yep.
in a very
Yep.
compact way. And this could be usually people from product background, or this could be usually people who love to who knows business very well and who wants to get into the weeds, right? So a lot of the companies like Sierra, a lot of their salespeople are mostly like an FDEs. So with our ambient intelligence, Navara, we can turn every salesperson into an FDE. That's the promise.
That's
That's where we're
cool.
going.
That's a good pitch. And so you guys, I think when we spoke last, you mentioned, and this just caught my attention, the do fewer things perfectly product philosophy. I love that. If you could just explain what that means and why it's important.
So in the 0 to 1 stage, if I take a step back, your product and your GTM is nothing but just one. So there are only two things that really matters. One is your product being loved by there's user love by the users, the core users, and they love it so much that they tell their friends. That's your marketing, word of mouth. This is your retention and your product love strategy. For that to happen, you need to be very focused and say, what is it that we are doing? But at the same time, what is it that we are not doing? You could do many things with AI. There is this whole buzz like, oh, you can ship an entire Salesforce or build a Salesforce with AI, the
Right.
CRM, right? But is that what your user really wants? So when people ask me, are you going behind Salesforce? Are you building a CRM? We tell them no. CRM is last decades, last centuries, an artifact. We will grow out of CRM as a concept. We'll come to that point in the next 5 to 10 years. So it is more like, the CRM is more like a spacesuit. It has certain dimensions, and you need to have a certain body to fit in. Either you need to shrink or either you need to expand. But whereas with AI, the new ambient intelligence system we are trying to build is more like a very flexible one which fits to what is the body type that you as Matt or I as Maruti has it, and then people can wear it. So when we take that angle, it's very important that we go narrow and deep. AI does very well when you give it a very good focus rather than letting it like do 100 things. It's almost like humans in some ways,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And this is an insight that came from customers, by the way. This is not something that I created or it's my opinion. When I went and started, when after our 300 plus customer interviews, when we started pitching the product with a salesmanship hat, they said, Maruti, everyone is saying the same thing, and we have burnt our hands enough because these products don't work in the production. Here's a problem. Can you solve this problem? That's it. Here's one specific problem that we have. Can you tell me if you solve this problem? Don't tell us that we will promise the whole sky,
Right.
earth, everything, right?
Yeah.
That's where I said, holy cow, we should be super tactical, only talk about two or three things and focus on doing two or three things, perfect them in a way that users love us for those two or three things, earn their attention and their trust, and then go on to build other things.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to approach it, especially now with AI. It's fun to build. I could build this and I could add this
Yeah,
thing on and I could
yeah,
do this other thing.
yeah,
But really, your customer is paying you for an outcome.
yeah,
And if you can help them achieve that and get there in the simplest, quickest, easiest way, that's who wins. And so taking your approach of, hey, let me go talk to, you said you talked to 300 plus, and this is pre-revenue. You
yeah,
had
yeah,
a concept and you're like, hey, I want to sell you this thing, but I want to hear about your problems. So I love that. And you went out, got the feedback and said, oh, this is the thing. This is what we
yeah.
need to build. How did you facilitate? Because someone listening to this, a founder or someone with an idea is, oh, I have to go talk to 300 people before I build this. What did that look like? Because it sounds very daunting when you hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were casting a wide net initially because
Yeah.
we all have biases and we all have our own beliefs. I really want to test my beliefs and biases. One of my friends, who's a UX researcher, she told me that 12 is a magic number, like 8 to 12. And then if you can do like an extensive, like a very, not leading questions, and she has a great framework. Yeah. And so after going and doing the 300 interviews, there are certain patterns that came in. And then we picked a particular customer segment and then we narrowed and we went to 12, where we showed them the Figmas and then we've just followed Janet's, rule book of how to run a UX discovery at this point. Because the 300 is mostly to understand the problem space more deeply. Now, here's a surprising thing, Matt. Almost everyone has problems in the day-to-day life that they are looking for. Either they're stitching some workaround or they're looking for solutions. And when you really go and ask them with a genuine curiosity and not trying to sell them anything, people would be open to sharing that 15, 20, 30 minutes, not more than that, because they have their own day-to-day job, they have their
Right.
own life and careers to work with. But people are usually generous.
I agree with that. For consulting engagements, usually the first question I ask is what keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
And then there's usually a lot of stuff. But yeah, everyone wants to be heard and feel like the other person asking them the questions actually interested in, hey,
Yep.
what are you trying to solve here? That's a fantastic approach. I want to ask, let's look forward like 3 to 5 years. Difficult to do given how quickly things are changing, but how do you see AI impacting, in particular, GTM?
Everything I might say would be wrong 3 to 5 years,
It will be. Yeah, it's
right?
guaranteed.
It's guaranteed, but I'll still go ahead and try to predict and try to invent or build a future that I would
Yeah.
want to see. I think for the first time ever, this technology has made something uniquely possible in go-to-market. Think of how many times we all have been sitting in those rooms and said that Matt is an excellent seller, an excellent marketer. I wish I had 100 mats. You go to a founder, they all would say that. I wish I had 100 mats. We'd be crushing our growth numbers. That's
Yeah.
what they'd be saying in their board meetings every single time or investor updates. For the first time with the LLMs, the unique power of the LLMs, like everyone thinks that Gen AI, like the name Gen AI is also such a misleading thing where people started generating a lot of slop and content, but the real
Yeah.
power of LLMs is what they can read all the
Hmm.
unstructured data and synthesize and
Yep.
help us understand it much better. So if I can understand Matt, my excellent Merrick seller, and I can replicate Matt's mind, that's a massive unlock for any business. So the two things, how do we find Matt's and how do we mimic Matt? How do we find Matt's is still a very human problem. And how do we
Yes.
mimic Matt and make a clone or make a replica of his brain is what is possible. And I feel that's where we're heading. Right now, that brain can be like a Matt avatar. After 5 years, I'm sure you're spending time with your family on Christmas and you still want to record a podcast. You just give it to the Matt,
Yeah.
and then that Matt will come here and interview me. So that's
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
world. And the other world is, oh, you might have done a lot of research and prep and all the questions, etc. Now that Matt is present, but then there's also the Matt's the intelligence that will be acting as an ambient intelligence and helping Matt to be a better podcaster. So these are the two worlds, and it's going to happen in GTM in a way that we will almost have all the 10 reps, everyone being super efficient if we find the right set of people and then empower them with this ambient intelligence.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I think what you've said is where it is headed. We're already starting to see that, right? The
Yeah,
whole GTM engineering, right? What little pieces and parts here can we automate? This
yeah,
person's doing a really great job.
yeah,
So why are they
yeah,
doing a good job? And how
yeah,
can I start to replicate that? It's interesting because I run into a lot of founders that are starting to transition from that founder led sales to,
yeah,
hey, I need to hire someone. Really, where they get hung up is, I don't have a process. I don't know what good looks like. I just go and do it. Imagine a future of, hey, there's this tool that's out there kind of listening, watching, guiding, that all of a sudden can synthesize, hey, these are the good parts of your sales process. Here's your sales process. Find some people like this.
yeah,
Um, and here's how they do it. It's amazing. I love thinking about the future. It's fun to geek out over it.
yeah.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap things up here?
Oh man. So another interesting thing with AI is every time you think that the intelligence is plateauing,
Yeah.
there's an internal joke in my team that this is AGI. Like every time we think like Opus 4.5, we felt is an AGI
Right.
moment. And then suddenly Gemini 3, we felt like, and the Nano Banana felt like an AGI moment. And we keep having these AGI moments. And I just feel that we don't need AGI. We already have AGI. It's just that we are not recognizing. And then as humans, we take everything for granted. Like what is cool today is not cool anymore. That's the fundamental nature. And we are just greedy in a way that we're hungry, ambitious, and they want to do more. So this technology is gonna go wild,
Yeah.
is my last thoughts.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I agree. When did ChatGPT launch? Was that 18
November
months ago,
November
24 months ago?
2022.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy if you look at the progress and the
Yeah.
momentum. It's insane. Okay, so if someone wants to learn more about your product, Nevara,
Yeah. Yeah.
they go to the website.
They can
Can
reach
they
out to
sign up?
me.
Perfect.
So we're going public in January. That's when
Oh,
they can just
awesome.
sign up. Otherwise, they can write to me. It's maruthi@navara.ai. Very
We'll
simple.
drop
My
that
first name.
into.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. I am currently concierge onboarding. So they get one-on-one
Ooh,
support from the founder himself
fantastic.
on our Slack. I love every waking moment. And sometimes I wake up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. also check my customer Slack channels because some of them, now I'm currently in the West Coast, some of them are on the East Coast. So for them, it's already morning. They drop
Yep.
in feedback or questions. I'm always available in some sense. And it gives me so much energy to stay close to customers.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Don't lose it. Keep it.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
it. No
I
matter
will.
how, that's a gift for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Maruthi, thank you so much. I really have enjoyed our time together, and I feel like we could probably have a whole series about AI and GTM and the human experience.
Yeah.
It's such a great topic right now. So I appreciate you taking the time and thanks again.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
All right.
See you, man. Bye.
Bye.